Hello, and welcome to Mountain Climbers. I'm your host and fellow mountain climber, Whitney. So if you think right now, oh man, Whitney looks kind of ragged. Well, yes, I just got back from traveling home from an amazing and much needed vacation at my sister's, and yes, it was very relaxing, was able to recoup. But one reason that it was also amazing is because I got to film this incredible and inspiring episode of Mountain Climbers. And sometimes I interview that person here in my studio. Sometimes we do it through Zoom. And then there's those very rare times that I have the honor of actually going to where that person works, or the passion or the thing that we're going to discuss during that Mountain Climbers episode, and just get a little glimpse of their world. And that way you too can get a little glimpse of their world as well. And it just makes it a little extra special. And that's what I got to do with this episode. I interviewed Sergeant Jeremy Maupin of the Knoxville Police Department. So to Jeremy, his job is not just a job. It's much more than that. It is a calling. And he just feels very, very impressed to, take this calling and not only use the skills and the passions he has as a police officer and, with his job, but to take that out in the community, into the church, and make an impact. And so I'm just really excited for you to hear what he has to say. And I think the takeaway that I really hope you grasp is, when it comes to whatever you're passionate about or whatever you want to do in this world, make sure you're called to do it. Make sure that, it's God that's leading you, because there's only one you, and you need to do the purpose that God created you to do. And I just think Jeremy explains and expounds on that so beautifully. So anyway, I'm very excited for you to hear that interview. And so I am going to peace out and take you to that interview. And I'm going to go and start my treatment and take a much needed nap. So very excited. You're going to love it, and you're going to be so inspired. Hello, and welcome to Mountain Climbers. As you can see, not in my studio. I am here with Sergeant Jeremy Maupin. I appreciate that you're letting us take over your, office and invade it. And
Absolutely.
You're going to be blessed by this interview. I am so very excited for you to hear his story. So, Jeremy. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I call you Jeremy?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I just want to know first, I want people to get to know you. So just share about your family, how you were raised, and, just the values that were instilled in you.
Absolutely. So obviously I was raised in East Tennessee. The youngest of three brothers. My mom and my dad just celebrated their 50th anniversary.
Oh, that's awesome.
Raising us in Maryville, right outside Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
The sacrifice for them that really made an impact in my life is that they would drive 30 minutes one way every morning to bring us to a Christian school, which is Apostolic Christian School here in Knoxville. And did that for all of our lives. All three of us graduated from Apostolic Christian School.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously active members of First Apostolic Church.
Yeah.
And just the influence of not only my Christian parents, but the coaches and teachers,
Mm-hmm.
the pastoral staff of both entities have made a huge impact in my life.
Yeah.
Instilling the love of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
and my moral integrity
Mhm.
compass, if you will, is
Mm-hmm.
intact because of the ministry that I've been under.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing.
Wow. So the youngest of three sons?
Yeah, it's really
How are you alive?
It was rough. There's all kinds of good stories out there if you ever get to hear it. But we're all 2 years apart, so we all were very competitive and always striving to be the best. And I think that in itself has made me a better person as well.
Awesome. Well, it's obvious that you had these really amazing values and standards instilled in you, like fresh out of the womb, basically. And so that kind of, to me, it shows me that you wanted to make an impact in this world and do something that had meaning. So what led you to becoming a police officer?
I think all my life I had a huge desire to help people.
Yeah.
My mom was a nurse. She always helped people. My grandfather was a police officer here at Knoxville Police Department.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is his own equipment. He
so
retired.
You're a legacy officer.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And actually my dad wanted to be a police officer, but my papa wouldn't let him.
Oh, wow.
Because it was just, it's a tough job. It's a tough, and the pay wasn't back then. And so he wouldn't allow it to happen. I've got aunts that are nurses. Just all of my family, everybody kind of had that servant heart type ministry. Yeah. And I think as a Christian, we all should have that. We all should be wanting to do something more than ourselves and be a little selfless. And growing up, it was either going to be a doctor, police, or military.
Okay.
And of course, all three impact other people's lives. And I quickly learned as going in about 8th grade, 9th grade, I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor.
Oh.
So it was going to be between the military and police.
Okay.
But as I went in and prayed more and more, my prayer was always at a young age, God, I'll do anything you want me to do. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
I surrender. And I kept praying that. And it came down to when I was 18, I was a freshman in college. So I did a ride along here at the police department.
Oh, cool.
And I encourage anybody that's interested in law enforcement to do that. Because you get to see it firsthand. It's not what you see on television all the time. Okay. But I got to ride with an officer and I saw firsthand of the impact that officer had. Yeah. And it really, that along with me just trying to strive to be in God's will, gave me that understanding that this is the path I needed to take.
Yeah. And that's cool when we know and when he shows us by just opening the doors. Like I firmly believe that, we have to keep walking through the doors. If they're opening, then, it's obvious. God is trying to tell us something. And you mentioned that you feel like Christians should, want to do something that's bigger than themselves. So it's obvious to me that this isn't just a job to you, it's a calling. And so I would love for you to expound on what it means to have a calling.
I think there's comfort in a calling. Like you kind of touched on it, that I know exactly where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of men and women that choose professions that probably maybe a good paying job. Yeah. But they're not real satisfied with going to work every day. Yeah. I honestly, when I signed up Whitney, I didn't care how much they paid me. I didn't even look at how much. I didn't know what my retirement was. I didn't know what my insurance was. I knew this was where I was supposed to be. And I was actually shocked that they paid me to do it. So I had so much love and passion to go in this community. And even if it's small impact, it's an impact. And knowing and putting yourself and surrendering to God and saying, God, show me the path. And when you find that path, it's relieving to know that you're right where you're supposed to be. And many times through my career, other jobs have opened up, a career in the federal law enforcement, where I probably would have had to move out of state. And the same prayer was, Lord, I'll do it. If this is where you want me to be, my family was supportive, my mom and dad were supportive. But when it came down to it, Knoxville Police Department was where my heart was and where I was called to be. Yeah.
Well, and then God just allowed you to take that calling and just build on it, because you are trained in 63 different areas of police work. And I'm just like, how do you sleep? For real, how do you sleep? How do you function? So what one area do you feel the most drawn to?
I think that area has been, it's been fluid. It's moved throughout the almost 22 years that I've been here. Early on, I wanted to work the inner city of Knoxville. I wanted to be in the roughest area to impact people, because there's so many good people that get a bad rep because of the neighborhood they're in.
Exactly.
So working in that and bringing some light to that area and putting, taking drugs off the street and guns off the street, I was real passionate about that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn more, as much as I could, about that type of policing.
Yeah.
And I was actually worked real hard, and I got accepted to be in the narcotics division.
Okay.
So I went from uniform to undercover or plain clothes, and I was passionate about that. So I got a lot of good training. If you look in that regard, I went to the DEA task force. But taking the poison off the street was passionate during that first half of my career. But now in this latter part, I've had more of a draw because I've seen the effects of policing, the stress of policing.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to be the peer support coordinator, where we are looking out for the other officers that are dealing with stress, dealing with critical incidents. And I think right now, as I sit here, that's what I'm more drawn to. I want more resources. I want to learn more, so I can help my fellow brothers and sisters.
Through that trauma.
Such a high suicide rate, alcohol abuse, divorce, and it stems a lot. Not just some of it stems from the lack of a Christian walk, but a lot of it is just the job it's tough. It's very tough, and I want to be able to help others fight through and not just survive a career, but thrive through this career.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I love that. And I get the feeling you're drawn to the peer support group because you understand what it's like to face some scary and unknown situations. And thankfully you had God on your side in your training. But is there any circumstance or, a time that comes to mind where you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it out alive,
I don't think we have enough time to discuss all those. I will share with you two that I know without a doubt the power of the Holy Ghost moved and changed and altered my future because of some things. But one was me and my partner were working East Knoxville, and a call came out up North Knoxville, which wasn't our area, but all the officers were real busy. So we got on the radio and said, "Hey, we'll go up there and take this call." It was a very suspicious call. The complainant on the 911 was trying every time we call back and add more intel of what was going on, but it ultimately come out that someone had been stabbed, a female had been stabbed. She was dying on the floor of this kitchen floor. So me and my partner rush up there, and we get to we approach, we park down a few houses safely. We get out on foot. My partner began to walk up through the front yard to the front door, and Whitney, somebody grabbed a hold of me. And said, "Stop for a second." And I said, "Hey, Bingham, hold on a second." I said, "Let's go around the back." And so we decided to tactically get around the back, around the trees. And as soon as we got there, we heard something, but the back door was still moving, like somebody had just rushed out and had fled. We didn't see anybody. We need to go in there and make sure this person's not dying. We go in and clear the residents, and there's nobody on the kitchen floor. It was a staged ambush is what it was. So we go around to the front door. The suspect had taken out the door handle. So he had a see-through port, and a high-powered rifle was laying up against the door. So if we had came through the front yard, up the front drive, he'd have shot us. And by the power of God, God saved us that day.
Oh yeah.
And then Officer Bingham, not being a real true believer, if you will, was just obviously very disturbed. He looked at me, his face was white. He said, "Man, what just happened?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You knew to go around the back." I said, "Brother, I just felt led." He said, why do you think the guy just fled out the back? I said, "I think he looked out and he saw an army of angels watching over us." And he was scared to go against all of us and took off on the back. And God moved to minister that day. And there's so many other ones where God stopped me dead in my tracks and made me make a different decision. And the most recent was a couple of years ago. Night shift. We were looking for an armed suspect who supposedly had a gun and drugs. He was in a stolen car. We find him over in northwest Knoxville. My partners see him. They said, "Hey, he's fleeing out this neighborhood. I'm coming in the entrance of the neighborhood." And instinctively I said, "I need to block this road. I don't want this guy to get out on the main road and kill somebody." So I was going to take the hit and just let the guy hit me head on. At the last second, that power felt again. I popped it in reverse and I jumped out of the way into a driveway, and the guy flies by. We get out, we go up, we chase him, and he ends up wrecking about a mile up the road, flipping his car. The gun's there. Drugs are there. We get him out. We handcuff him. Everybody's safe. Well, I come home that morning, and my wife was awake, and she said, "How did last night go?" And I said, "Oh, that's fine. Nothing major happened." And she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Why do you ask me?" Because I don't try to share these scary moments with my family. And she says, "Did anything happen?" I said, "Well, yeah, we chased this guy, blah, blah." She said, "What time was that?" And I said, I remember because I had to do the reports. It was 3:55 a.m. And she looked at me. She said, "Jeremy, God woke me out of my sleep and told me to pray for you."
Oh my goodness.
And so I think the prayer of my wife, a faithful woman of God, and God just watching over it, saved me from whatever was going to happen at the point of impact, or if it was going to be a shootout or whatever. But God's had his hand on me multiple times. I could talk all day long about these things, but it's been a blessing.
It's obvious you're still supposed to be here. And I think one of the reasons is because you see how important it is to take these skills and these callings and not just apply them to your work as a police officer, but take it out into the community and your church. And why do you feel so like that's important? Why do you feel that way?
I just think that I could take the experiences of what I've grown up in the Christian school and church, and it can minister and bless others at work. I can take what I've learned at work and help and minister in the office. So I have to be the same person everywhere I go and take all that God has put in my lap. Even times that's sometimes heavy, but I feel like that I can do that and maybe benefit somebody else's life and while doing that, if you will. So God has given me a lot of different avenues, opened a lot of doors for me. And I've been blessed to take that responsibility. I hope I never take it lightly.
And I'm sure because you feel like, you have this responsibility, you want to invest in the community, that it's been very difficult that, in recent years, the profession of a police officer has been questioned. And, some people see you all as the enemy and not as a friend anymore. And I can't imagine how tough that would be because you've put your heart and soul into this. So how does that make you feel, and what would you say to those people?
I think it's very unfair that we get judged by the actions of only a few. There's almost 1 million sworn police officers in this country. It used to be almost, I think over that, we've lost a lot due to this crisis, if you will. People retire, people walked away from the profession because it's tough right now. And it's heartbreaking for men like me, and I'm sure women like me, that this is their calling. And they only signed up for this to try to bring good and bring light to a dark world. And then you get kicked in the stomach and you call things. I've never been hated so much. And see things on the news, and that it's devastating. And it really, really deflate you. And then the devil will use that to try to deter you from why you ever signed up. And then what it's done, it's raised crime because officers are not being as proactive in enforcing the law. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to be up on the news. They feel like, why should I do anything for people that don't appreciate me? And the aftermath is devastating for our country because you see the high rise of crime, shootings and other things. So it's been tough. I understand there's the silent majority. There's still a lot of people that love us and appreciate us, and we still hear that out here, at least in Knoxville. And people don't realize how much that means, that pat on the back. Hey, I appreciate your service. And used to, we'd hear it, but it didn't mean as much until now. We see the support. And so that I always want to encourage anybody that see an officer, please let them know that you appreciate them.
Well, let me let you know. Thank you for your service. I very much appreciate it. I think, everyone that's going to watch this can see how sincere you are and that your heart is you truly want to make this world a better place. But, I would say that in the midst of the turmoil, the scares, why am I still doing this? Just all those doubts, that there are those feel-good moments in your job that make you see, okay, this is why I'm doing it, and this is why I still have faith in humanity. Can you elaborate on that?
So I'm going to tell you this. We were at the beach last week, and a couple families down, they lost their wedding ring in the sand.
Whoa.
And they saw that Aiden, my oldest boy, had a metal detector.
Yeah.
And they come down and said, "You mind if your son comes down and helps us find this ring?" I said,
Yeah.
"He'll love it." So Aiden goes down, he scans around a little bit, and he ends up finding this very expensive wedding ring.
Wow.
Able to present it back to the family. They're excited. They're, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe
Yeah.
it." And I looked at Aiden, his face is just lit up. And we walked away. I said, "Aiden, you know that feeling that you just had of helping somebody?
Yeah.
Making someone's day a little bit better?" He said, "Yes, sir, I do." I said, "That's why I signed to be a police officer." We all love to chase criminals. I love the adrenaline. I like to drive fast. That's a good part of it. But when it comes down to the root of it, it's about that feeling of knowing I made someone's life a little better. And not that we hear it enough, but I got a call this week on my phone here in the office. And this lady on the line, she says, "You probably won't remember me." And I didn't remember her name. She says, 4 years ago, you and your partner stopped and arrested me. I was drunk. I was high on drugs. I ran over and gone the wrong way on the street. I was heading into traffic. And I want to tell you that you saved my life.
Wow.
And she said, since then, I'm 3 years sober. I'm playing piano in my church. I'm ministering to others. I'm doing all kinds of fundraising to help others and their addictions. And we got to meet with her this week.
Oh my, that's amazing.
She showed up and she actually brought me a keychain that says, "Thank you for saving my life."
Oh yeah.
A thank you
I
card.
will, so people see it. Oh my goodness, that is so cool.
And just that small token with that makes me, have faith in humanity that people still appreciate what we're doing. And it's something that we're just doing our job.
Yeah.
And not knowing that the impact we have. And that encourages me to make sure that we're always doing our very best.
Yeah.
Each and every contact, each and every day. Because you don't know whose life you're impacting. And those things, those moments like that, give you that extra boost to carry on.
Oh, I'm sure. It's like those, God winks. Like God saying, "I see you. You're doing what you're supposed to do." And, which I mean, we serve Jesus. And I mean, he had the most thankless and underappreciated job. So it's great that, he gives us those, reminders. Like, I understand what you're going through. I went through it too. Keep trucking along. So to end this, I just kind of want to come full circle. And I just want you to give others, advice of, you're searching for your calling, you think you found it, but you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is scary. This is like unknown and even like dangerous." But then also, more importantly, just kind of encourage them in the fact that you can stand in integrity and confidence, even when that calling just kind of seems, like we said, thankless and a little bit underappreciated.
So first, I'll tell anyone that's thinking getting this line, they feel like maybe their heart's being tugged this way, is make sure it is a call. Make sure you're doing this for the right reason.
Yeah.
Because, there's people that will sign up and think, "Man, this will be a fun job.
Oh.
Give me a gun, give me a badge," and they realize quickly it's more than just that, right? And they don't last. So first of all, I'd ask that you make sure that this is where God would want you to be.
Yeah.
And if you have that assurance, then I'll tell you this job is wonderful.
Yeah.
For the most part, it's been a great career. I can't imagine doing this without knowing God. I can't imagine going into the circumstances I've been in and not having God on my side.
Yeah.
Not knowing if this was my last shift, where I'm going. So that's important that you have that relationship that God is saying, "I need you to be a police officer. I need you to be a minister of me to go and do this job. And I will bring you through it. I will give you the strength. I will be your shield." And that's got to be number one. And I'll tell you, like any other job, it sometimes gets discouraging. We work a lot of different hours. We work a lot of extra jobs to try to make a little extra money to support our families. But be encouraged to know if you're in God's will, He's got you exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And be ready to always react to incidents like this where you can make an impact on someone's life.
Yeah.
And just pray that anybody that comes in this job knows that this is a wonderful, wonderful career, that I can lay my head on a pillow every night knowing that I've done my very best to try to make my community better.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And I love what you said. You need to make sure it's a calling before you jump into it. And
it's not just a job. It's
exactly. And I think that is so true, not just for your profession, but for any Christian pursuing something. And, because if you don't make sure it's a calling, when it gets hard, you're just going to quit. And you're the epitome of what a calling is, because, like just the stuff you've talked about, any person who, wasn't strong in their faith would just be done by now. And so I appreciate your service. I thank you for that. And I just thank you for showing people in the police force, the community, and even in the church, this truth. When your strength comes from the right source, there's not a mountain you can't climb.